Welcome back to His and Hers Movie Podcast. This is episode number 61, featuring a review of The Unholy, which is a new horror film that kind of quietly was released a couple of weeks ago. We did see it during our movie theater extravaganza that we mentioned last week, and we figured we would finally do the review on it this week. We're kind of a little bit of a week behind. Depending on when Philip posts this episode, it could still come out this week, but it might be next week. Anyway, I am one half of your hosting duo, JP, podcasting out of southwestern Pennsylvania, and it is April 18th, 2021 at the time of recording this show. I'm joined, as always, by the one true co-host, Carly. How are you? What's going on?
Yes, I am the other half. Welcome, everybody. Not much is going on. It is 1 a.m. right now because, well, we like to put off pods. And because we put off pods, we suffer the consequences of having to do the pod late at night at 1 a.m. But we are here, and I, wanted to get this done, so here we are. I'm doing all right, though. I went bowling today. I have been trying to watch mainly just 05 moves. In fact, that's pretty much all I have to talk about for this episode. I feel like I've watched pretty much all the main good ones besides a few foreign ones, so I'm to the point where I'm kind of over it and don't feel like watching the monster from the Blue Lagoon's dick. I just, it's just getting, it's annoying. I'll go to look for an 05 move, and I'm like, I don't even know what to watch at this point, but I guess that's a good thing. I feel like I'm prepared and everything, but, so, been watching those. I haven't been watching a ton, though. I feel like I keep skipping days, and mainly because of work and just being tired, and some days I just don't feel like watching a move, but that is okay.
Yeah, my totals are way down this year compared to the last couple years. As of right now, I'm at 137, quarter way through. What did I hit last year? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember.
541, so quarter way through. So if you took, 137 times 4, that would be what, it would probably be around 500, huh?
Probably.
Yeah, so I'm not
548. 548.
That's actually more.
Yeah.
How?
You said 137 times 4?
Yeah, right? It's April, which is the 4th month. Wait, no, it's 4, 8, 10, 11, 12. Wait. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, we're 1/3 of the way through.
Yeah.
Okay, I was about to say. Wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, so definitely under then. So 137 times 3 would be what?
Got rid of my calculator. I didn't know I was going to be doing.
Never prepared.
I did 411, dude. 411.
Okay, so I would be under, over 100 under, which is okay by me this year. I think I kind of overdid it the last couple years, so I've really been slowing down significantly this year. Just not really been in the mood all the time to watch movies. I just do what I have to do for the podcasts, and then obviously doing the 05 movies has been something that I've been doing, but at the end of the day it's kind of just not really something that I feel like doing, and it, we watch movies for fun primarily. Yeah. I mean, we watch them for podcasts, which is also for fun, but I've noticed that whenever I have serious life issues going on, I just don't feel like watching movies at all. It's and it's sad to say that because movies were actually the thing that I would escape to whenever life was going wrong.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I could kind of chalk that up to is just that I've overdone it over the past couple of years to where it's no longer an escape. And that scares me a little bit because it was always the thing that I gravitated to. So I'm afraid to kind of lose that. And I think that maybe if I kind of slowed down a little bit, it might reinvigorate that type of drive to watch movies whenever I'm bummed out about other things. So I'm not sure, but it's this year I've slowed down a lot. I'm pretty happy and content with the amount that I'm watching right now. I could even probably slow down a little bit more. I think this summer for break on 22 Shots, because we actually canceled this week's show because of some stuff I had going on, and we only have one more show before we go on break till September. So our last show is May 7th, which will be the 2005 show, and then we will go on break till, I believe, September is usually when we come back. So I think during that break, I think I'm going to just sort of chill out and not really watch that much. Try to do other things, which will be like kind of a first. I mean, I think my numbers were really so high last year, partially because of the pandemic. I'd say like right around March, I just started going like absolutely crazy with watching movies last year. March, April were all really big months. I mean, there's months where I was watching 2 films a day pretty much. I hit over 60 on multiple months last year, so that was pretty crazy that to hit those numbers. But I don't know, what is your reason that you're kind of burnt out on movies?
Well, you see, buddy, at the start of the year, I guess I got kind of cocky. I was like, it's a fresh year, and I'm going to watch a bunch of movies for fun. And I was just enjoying myself too much, I think, and I kept watching them and watching, like, I was really excited. I would go home and watch them. And honestly, like, part of it is during the winter, it's, like, depressing out to me. I hate bad weather. I hate when it's cold. I hate when it's, like, hard to drive and you can't really go anywhere and do anything. So that's what my prime time for watching movies. And I was enjoying that. I would just come home and relax and not do anything after work and just put in a movie, and I was like really excited. Another thing is, I feel like I keep buying so many films, but I look at my stack right now and I feel like a lot of it is more serious or just downer type movies, and I would rather watch fun movies right now. But it's like I just think like every film that I have in my collection or my to watch stack seems like it's gonna be dreary and bleak and depressing, and so I don't feel like watching those. So I'm kind of to the point where I'm just kind of watching everything for the '05 show, like I said, and then after that, I guess I'll get back into the movies I have. Then, the summer series is coming up too for Duncan's show, so I'll be probably prepping early for that as well. But yeah, I don't know, I was going really hard at the beginning, and I thought like I'm already like beating my record, but I'm only at 122 at this point, so I feel like I probably will slow back down and be, on par with how I was in past years. But I don't know, it is what it is. It's fine to take a break, I think, sometimes, as long as you watch what you have to watch for your commitments and whatnot. So
yeah, I totally forgot about the summer series. So I'll probably be doing that over the summer, but even then, it's still not like an overabundance of movies that you have to watch for that show, so it won't be too bad. Plus, I won't have 22 shots during then. 2005, I'm kind of getting closer to being done. I fell a little bit behind these past 2 weeks just because I've been like dealing with some stuff, but I did get a couple in, and I think right now I'm at around 54, so I have 21 movies to watch to actually beat Jeremy in the bet. And we have, about a little over half a month, I think, until that show, so I should be okay to actually win that.
Right. But if you don't, it is not a big deal.
Yeah, we have about 19 days left, so I have 21 movies in 19 days. I think I should be okay because I don't have to really watch anything else during that time. Of course, this next weekend we'll be going to the drive-in, which will be pretty fun, hopefully.
Yeah.
So that will basically take up 2 days of my watching. So I should probably try to watch a few more this week, so I'm like a little ahead. But either way, usually like the final week of prep, I can honestly knock out like 14 movies right there probably, doing like 2 a day. But yeah, it's been weird with the 05 show because the prep rather, because at first I was like really liked it because it was just like, we hadn't done movies of that modern of an era in a very long time. Like, if you don't count our, end of the year shows, we haven't done, post 90s since 2002, which was like the third show we ever did, like retro year.
Yes.
So at first it was really fun to sort of watch these more modern type movies, but after you get into it a little bit, it's kind of like very bland of a year, and we'll talk about that on the 05 show. But a couple of the guys really hate the year. I'm kind of just think it's mediocre. I actually think I had more fun prepping for 91 after watching, over 50 of these movies. I don't know how you feel. I know you like more.
Yeah, I was having a fun time. I've mentioned it multiple times on this show that I think the nostalgia factor really helped. A lot of these movies I grew up watching and watched them as they came out. House of Wax, whatchamacallit. I just forgot every 05 move. White Noise, Hide and Seek, freaking Red Eye, like a lot of the Boogeyman, like even the bad ones, the Fog remake. Like I remember watching these when I was, I would have been 8 in 2005. So there was a lot of nostalgia. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily good, but it was just kind of fun to go down memory lane and realize there was a lot of movies from the year that I did watch when I was young. But I'm kind of, like I said, I'm kind of to the point where I'm just like, I don't even know what to look for. You go on Tubi, pretty much every film left on there that I haven't watched is, you just know it's going to be horrible. So I'm like, I don't feel like wasting my time at this point. And then, there's a few other ones that were recommended by you or the guys or whatever that I still have to check out. But other than that, I feel like I've seen pretty much anything that I necessarily have to. And yeah, I find doing these like shows, I always think, like, I'll look up a move and I'm like, oh man, that's from 04. Why can't we be on 04? And I just started thinking, like,
horrible year, by the way.
Yeah, and it's like funny because I'll look at these other years and think like, man, that year looks better. But it's really just because you get to the point where you watch so many from this year that you're out of moves and you just want to be in a different year. So,
yeah,
but I was having fun
I was
first.
like, look, we were discussing like movies from the 80s on a recent 22 shots, and I was just like, man, like 88 would be so fun, or like even like 79 would be really fun. So that's what I'm sort of hoping for next time, something like that. Just to get back in that territory a little bit, It's like, it's weird, like, when we hadn't done a 2000s for a long time, I really wanted to do that, and I didn't want to do another 70s or 80s. when we were doing like 70s every other year, I was like didn't want to do a 70s at all. Same thing with the 80s. Like even though I loved the 80s, like doing 82, 86, and 85, I was like, man, I want to do a 90s or something. So it really is just like every time you get a year, like towards the end of it, don't want to do anything from that era again for a while.
Right. Yeah.
But overall, I mean, there's definitely enough movies to make a solid top 10 list. Like I'll be happy with my top 10 list, but there wasn't really a lot of movies that I saw that were like gems, like not even gems, but like a lot of the films that I had never seen I watched, and I just thought they were like okay or like good, but nothing that I hadn't seen before was really great besides like a couple. Which is never what you kind of want. Like when I was watching movies for like 82 or something, there was a bunch that I hadn't seen that I thought were really good. But at the same time, like usually when I go into these things, like I'll have a rough outline of what my list will look like, and then it pretty much ends up being the same. I think one of the years, I think like a year like 72, I had no idea what's going to be on my list. And then it was like a lot of surprises because I just hadn't seen a lot of those films. But yeah, so I guess you want to get into some what we watched?
Yes.
All right. Shall I go first or shall you go first?
I believe I don't remember who goes first, but if you would like, you shall go first.
Okay, I have a good bit here, so I'll be a
No.
I watched The Ring 2 for Survive 05. Man, that movie is like highly disappointing because The Ring is, the 2002 Ring. Actually, I think it was like my number 3 of 2002, and would have been my number 2 or number 1, I can't remember, had Frailty not been changed, because I think Frailty counts as 01 now, but Frailty was my number 1 for 02. So I think the Ring would have been like my number 1. I think the original remake Ring, it's so weird saying that, original remake, the original American one, was such a good movie, and The Ring 2 is like, they try to like continue the story, and they try to basically bring the crew back together and make it, a sequel, but it's just like it didn't feel like they had much to work with. It's like all the mythology they add to the story isn't nearly as effective or creepy as the first film. And like one of my favorite parts about the first one, I keep saying the first one, but I'm clearly talking about the American Ring and not Ringu, is that the investigation portion, like when Naomi Watts is like trying to figure out the mystery of Samara and stuff, that stuff is all really interesting and scary. But in like The Ring 2, like all the stuff she's finding out just makes it like less scary for some reason. And I really didn't care about like the drama of her like losing the son and stuff like that. It reminded me of Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
And I just never, and even Child's Play a little bit, and I don't know, it was just like, it was disappointing. I still gave it like a 6, but definitely not a good sequel, in my opinion. And those CGI deer, come on.
Yeah, I mean, they do a lot of, like, CGI Samora, too, in a lot of parts in that movie.
Then I watched The Roost from 2005. This is Ty West's directorial debut. I believe this film either premiered on Showtime or it was like produced by Showtime or something, because the DVD is a Showtime DVD, which is weird. But it opens up with like a sort of like a horror host like telling a story of the Roost, and then it cuts into the movie, so you're like watching a movie in a movie almost. But it's like the whole story is just that. Like it almost feels like it should be like an anthology or something, but it's not. Basically, these people get stranded at like this abandoned farmhouse type thing, and there's like a bunch of bats and zombies. It's like a zombie film. But The cool thing about it is like the atmosphere. It's like a pretty like serious horror film. It's like not overly cheesy or anything. Feels really low budget, but it's very charming in its style, and I really like it. I think that it's like kind of a basic movie, but it works for what it is. I gave that one like a 7.5, probably a 7. But yeah, that's a pretty fun movie. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
No, I didn't watch that one yet.
And then we have Pterodactyl from 2005. This is like a sci-fi type movie about killer pterodactyls. Basically, like there's a volcano or something that erupts or something. This like prehistoric egg falls out and births these pterodactyls, and then there's these people like documenting the cave or not a cave. I don't remember. It's like a volcano or something. And they basically have to survive these pterodactyls. It's like all CG and stuff like that primarily. It tries to be good, but it's not really good. I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5. It was semi-entertaining. And then there's a slew of films that I watched for 22 shots here. We have Return of the Living Dead 1985. That show will be out. It's the Return of the Living Dead franchise. That show will be out probably next week. We got a little delayed on that one. But yeah, Return of the Living Dead, all-time classic, one of my favorite movies. Me and Dave pretty much geek out over it for like an hour. Just phenomenal. Absolutely love it. Obvious 10 out of 10. Return of the Living Dead Part 2. A very, very solid follow-up. It's definitely more cheesy and comedic than the first one, but I still think it's a lot of fun. And yeah, I really dig that one too. Return of the Living Dead 3 from 1993. This is like more of like a completely different story, but it still kind of works. It's sort of a romance horror film. I always, when I was younger, I thought it was like kind of weak, but I would rent it all the time. And as an adult, like I pretty much love it, and every time I watch it, I like it a little bit more. It's just a really fun movie. Yeah, I mean it's a good Return of the Living Dead film. Good gore in there too, and the lead is like absolutely smoking too. Love her. Then we have the 2 sequels from 2005, the direct-to-TV sequels. We have Return of the Living Dead Necropolis and Return of the Living Dead Rave to the Grave. I actually didn't think these were as bad as like I had heard until we started talking about them, and like Dave pretty much hated them. But he definitely like lowered my ratings on them. They're both bad movies, and they're really bad sequels too. But I think if I watched them on Sci-Fi Channel, I would have been like, man, that wasn't bad, you know. But in different contexts, they're pretty crappy. And then I watched More Brains from 2011. This is the documentary on Return of the Living Dead, and it's a really good documentary. It's so fun seeing everybody talk about the movie. They get like everybody in there to talk about it, and you could tell they all had a lot of fun making it, and the stories behind the movie are really, really cool. And I kind of forgot, but there was like a lawsuit between John Russo, who we've met, and George Romero, who we've met, over the rights to the Night of the Living Dead. You know, this is kind of like almost like a sequel type thing, but not really. And it was funny because John Russo talks about it, and he said they basically just let lawyers handle it, and him and George ended up being able to remain complete friends. It's like they kind of didn't even want involved in the legal battle, which was really cool. But yeah, it's a great documentary. It's like a 8.5 out of 10. Then I watched Reincarnation for Survivo 5, and this one is one of the 8 films to die for from the first run back in like 2006. I think that happened. and it is sort of an interesting movie. It's like a ghost story type thing, but in a weird way, dealing with reincarnation and stuff like that. I thought it was kind of interesting, and it tries to be really scary, but I just felt like it was never really scary. For like a lot of the like Asian ghost stories that you see, it tries to kind of do the. I found out, especially in '05, like movies try to be scary, but like fail a lot of the times. I've noticed. And I think that what saves this one is like its unique little story, but I just didn't find it very scary, so I just gave it like a 6.5 out of 10. Did you watch that one?
Yeah, I think I gave it like a 7, but I agree with what you said about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I watched Feast from 2005, and this movie is just such a blast, dude. I hadn't seen it in a really long time, but this was one of those films that was part of Project Greenlight, which was basically a reality TV series where they were trying to make movies, and this was the winner of the first season. So it was like, I think it was done by the Weinsteins, and like the winner was supposed to get a full theatrical like wide release for the film. And I never watched Project Greenlight, but I heard that first season was really good, because they were essentially making Feast on a reality show. And then apparently, like when they won, like it just got like a limited release and stuff like that. It did well though, because it did get 2 sequels like right back to back, which aren't nearly as good, but are still kind of fun. The cast is really fun in this one. You actually got Clu Gulager in there, who the son of him actually directed the movie, I believe. And is it John Gulager? I don't even remember. But obviously Clu was in Return of the Living Dead. And I think he played Bert, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, Feast is like a siege film where it has like, John Gulager directed it. Wow, there's so many producers on here. Ben Affleck, Bob Weinstein, Harvey Weinstein, Matt Damon, Wes Craven, Chris Moore. Dude, there's like 30 producers. But anyway, it's like a siege narrative. There's these creatures outside. It's like in a rundown bar. Almost reminds you of like From Dusk Till Dawn or something like that. But it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. They break the fourth wall and stuff like that with the opening title cards, which are really fun. It's honestly and mostly practical effects, if not all. I can't really remember, but a really fun monster movie. Did you watch that one?
Yes, I watched that one. I forgot that I watched that one early on, but I've seen it before too, and I think it's fun.
Yeah, I gave that like an 8.5. I'm not sure yet. And then I watched Hard Candy from 2005. This one was really good. I'd heard this one was good for a really long time. Starring Elliot Page, formerly known as Ellen Page. And what was it? Is it Tom Wilson who's in it?
Patrick Wilson, buddy.
Patrick Wilson. Tom Wilson is a hockey player. But it's basically about a teenage girl who is like hunting a pedophile, and she gets picked up by him and goes over to his house and basically like ties him up and stuff. But you don't know that at first. That's part of the story. That's like part of the synopsis. But like, I didn't know like that was gonna happen necessarily. Like at first I was just like, man, this girl's dumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I really liked like where it went, and it actually has a little bit of balls, and I really love the ending. And there's some stuff in the film that's like not fully explained that kind of leaves you wondering, but I think it's like in a good way. So I think that it's a really well done movie. I'm at like a 9 on that one. It's really solid. But is it a horror film? that's kind of the debate with that one.
Right.
For lists. Then I watched The Skeleton Key, 2005. I'd never seen this one before. I actually thought this was one of the better of the like mainstream like haunting type movie things, like ghost type thing. You know, a lot of these movies kind of feel the same that came out around this time, like Hide and Seek, White Noise, Skeleton Key. I actually used to get all those movies confused. But it actually, like, I thought it was pretty well done, and I like the setting and stuff like that. It's kind of creepy. I thought it was pretty good. I gave that one like a 7.5, not sure. And then I watched Boo from 2005. Now, this is one that I swear I heard people say was good for like the longest time, set in a abandoned hospital. But I just thought it was kind of crappy, dude.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, it was like just a very generic type movie. It was like they try really hard to scare. That's what I was talking about too, with like them trying to scare, and it just never works. It's just like I just really didn't enjoy watching that one. I gave it a 4 out of 10. And then I watched Symphony for Lady Vengeance, also known as Lady Vengeance, which is part 1, I believe, or no, part 2 in the Vengeance trilogy. The first one was Symphony for Mr. Vengeance in 2002, which I believe was like number 11 or 12 on my 2002 list, but I left it off the list because I didn't consider it horror. I've loosened up on like what I consider horror since then, and I think revenge films kind of fit the mold a little bit. But yeah, this movie is really good too. It basically follows a woman who is incarcerated for like 14 years in jail, but it's like a weird Japanese or South Korean jail where it's like it doesn't look like a jail like how our jails look. It's like basically just a room with a bunch of women in it, and she's trying to she was convicted of killing a like 5-year-old little boy, like smothering them or something like that, and the whole time you're kind of wondering like what's going on, and when she gets out of prison, she's going on a revenge kick for something, and the story kind of unfolds and you learn more. It's if there's one like problem that I have with it, it's kind of a little hard to follow because it jumps forward and backward in time like throughout the entire movie, and there's a ton of characters that she meets in prison and then outside of prison, so it's hard for me to tell who is who, and I'm really bad with foreign names, so like it's and also just like foreign looks, I don't want to be racist, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that all South Korean people look the same, but
buddy,
when everybody has black hair, it's kind of hard for me to like tell people apart when there are so many people on screen and stuff like that, so it's a little hard to follow in terms of like who's who and like did this earlier in the film and stuff like that. At the end of the day, it really doesn't necessarily matter by the time you get to the end of the movie. I think that rewatches would definitely help this film. But even with that said, I still thought it was like a really solid revenge film. And there's even some like dark comedy in it. But yeah, I really dug it. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Or an 8. I'm not sure yet.
You suck.
And then the last one that I watched here from 2005.
How many do you have?
This is the last one. Did you not just hear what I said?
You said from 05 that insinuates you have more from not 05.
No, this is it for the week. It's the Brothers Grimm. This is like labeled as like action, adventure, fantasy, horror, drama. Like it's got like it's like when you go on IMDb and it's listed under like every category. It basically follows these two brothers who are kind of like con artists who pretend to be like able to like how do I even explain it? like there's like a witch ghost thing that they deal with, but it turns out it's like all fake and they're shysters. But then they get like called upon a real incident, and they kind of bumble their way through it and stuff like that. It's got Matt Damon, I think, and Heath Ledger as the leads, as the two brothers, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Also, Monica Bellucci's in it, a couple of other familiar faces. But yeah, it's like they like perform exorcisms and deal with like creatures and stuff, but it's like all fake until they encounter a magical curse in a haunted forest. And there's like, if you know anything about like Grimm fairy tales, it's kind of has all those thrown in there, like the Little Red Riding Hood, and I can't even think of other ones right now, but you know, like the Grimm fairy, Hansel and Gretel.
Yes.
But it has all those stuffed in there in different forms and ways and stuff like that. And I thought that was cool, and it was fun seeing the different fairy tales and stuff like that. But I just feel like they didn't really do the film right. They didn't really have a good plan for this one, and it comes off. It's so weird because it comes off very almost like family friendly at times, but then it's like not at the same time. Like they actually a cat falls inside of a turbine like blade and just, and I was like, what?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of weird, man. I don't know. I thought it was like a cool idea, but I just didn't feel like it was like executed the greatest. It's PG-13, and it's also 2 freaking hours, so I was a little bummed with the runtime on that. I just gave it a 6, and that's it for me.
All right. Good job, buddy. My turn. Okay, so like I said, every movie I watched was from '05 recently, so I shall get into it. And the first one up, I have The Ghost of May Nok. And this is an Asian horror flick. I think it's Japanese. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a supernatural film about this like newlywed couple named Mac and Nak, and they move into this house, and then they start encountering this sort of spirit, and you know, the spirit kind of gets a hold of the husband, and the spirit basically wants the wife to you know, do something to bring her peace and such. This movie was okay. It felt very low budget, and especially with like the actual ghost effects of May Nok, which I believe is an actual alleged ghost. Well, I mean, I feel like Japanese people are big on their ghosts and stuff like that, but this is like a real story, legend, whatever you want to call it, and they made it into this movie, and like I said, it feels low budget. The effects on the ghost are kind of laughable and bad. At first it seems like okay, and then as the film kind of goes on, it gets a little, it just feels like it's dragging, and it's not really that scary or anything like that. It almost feels a little more dramatic between like the newlywed couple and stuff, and yeah, I just thought it was kind of basic, not the best. So I gave it like a 5. I think I gave it like a 5.5 out of 10, something like that. Then after that, I watched The Descent from '05, which I had to buy on DVD because for some reason the Blu-ray I have is not like compatible with either of my players, and I have an Xbox and a PS3. I don't have an actual Blu-ray player, but whatever. So I bought it on DVD because I didn't want to rent it, and I do like the movie. But The Descent, you know, about a group of girls who go on this journey, go on a descent of spelunking, which is, I've said it before, I think it's the dumbest hobby in the world, but to each they own. they go splunking, and it's like sometime after the one girl suffers this horrible, tragic event, and while they are down there, there are these monster things that start attacking them, and it is a fight for survival. And I will say I really, really, really enjoy The Descent. I think it's very scary, and it's one that I can rewatch anytime, and it's just one that's become one of my favorites over the years. So I'm definitely quite high on that move. It's just creepy to me. I dig it. It gets under my skin, and there's some stuff with heights I think is very well done and scary, and just the whole concept freaks me out. So I really dig that one. I'm at like a 9 out of 10 on that. Then I watched Strange Circus, and this was one that, this is a, no, is it a Sion Soto film? Whatever, I think. Yes. Yep. Yes, this is one of those films that you kept pestering me, telling me I better watch because I shall be screwed at the end for not watching any of these subtitled moves, so I thought I better get on it. And I watched it, and I liked it for the most part. It's a pretty screwed up movie about basically this woman's like writing this messed up story about this young girl and her mother, and it involves essentially incest and rapey stuff and jealousy and all this weird stuff, and you're seeing like the events take place from the book, and then you're kind of seeing the actual woman who's writing it, and you're kind of like, why the heck is she writing this story? And then of course there's a big thing at the end that's sort of like this twist, and the ending, honestly, the climax, I wasn't a big fan of. I thought it got a little bit almost goofy in a way, but I did like the beginning stuff quite a bit, so I'm at about a 7, I think, or 7.5, somewhere around there on this film. Definitely didn't like it as much as I see some other people enjoying it, but I thought it was good. It was definitely solid. And then I watched Alone in the Dark. I had bought this one on DVD recently just because it was an 05 move, and I was bored. I had some downtime at work, so I went to the store and bought it, and this movie is pretty shitty. It's got Tara Reid in it, which I will never understand why she kept getting work. I think she's just horrible, like one of the worst actresses I've ever seen in my life. So she's in that and sucks, and the movie itself just sucks. I think it's like based off a video game or something.
Yeah, well, it's freaking directed by Uwe Boll, so.
Right, of course. We hate Uwe Boll.
Do you know who he is?
Nope.
He's kind of known as making like completely trash movies. And he's kind of like a weird dude. He's German. And there's a story where like he basically boxed a critic. Like this critic kept talking shit about all of his movies, so he challenged him to a boxing fight. But apparently, like Uwe Boll is actually like a trained boxer, so he like beat the piss out of this dude. But like he made like, oh my god, he made so many movies too. Most of them are crap. He's made like 1 or 2 good ones. He did Alone in the Dark, Alone in the Dark 2, Blood Rain, which was I believe another video game movie. He did House of the Dead, which was another video game movie.
I was gonna ask you if that's the same dude that did that.
Yeah, you said, actually, he did not do Alone in the Dark 2. But yeah, he did Stoic. He did Blackwoods, which sucked. Sanctimony, which sucked. I think I own both of those. Yeah, I think really his only great movie, from what I hear, and I've never even seen it, is a movie called Rampage. But yeah.
I've not seen it. Yeah, I remember I think I bought House of the Dead on VHS like a few years ago, and you were telling me about like the director thinks he's the shit, but really he makes all these horrible films, and he like thinks he's better than he is.
Yeah, and it's funny. I actually used to follow him on Letterboxd because I found out he had a Letterboxd account, and he must have got either banned or deleted his account because it's gone. But I used to love, because he would review everything he watched, but it would be like, shit movie, this movie is dog shit and stuff.
Like immature.
Yeah, it was like hilarious.
It's funny. But yeah, Alone in the Dark is really not that good. And it's not even my taste of movie anyway. It's like action horror, and I can't stand that. So, bad effects and just not that great of acting, not a great story. Yeah, I gave it like a 3.5 out of 10. Then after that, I watched Nori the Curse. This is an interesting sort of kind of found footage / fake documentary style film, and you know, it's about this guy who's kind of documenting these like disappearances and like going around and investigating these weird sort of goings-ons in different areas. And I thought it was really well made. I think to me it was a little disappointing because I just didn't find it to be all that scary. It seemed like it would be really creepy at the beginning, and to me it just didn't really do it for me too much. But I did think it was quite well made, and I do like these found footage style films, so, you know, gets an A+ from me in that territory. But as far as creeping me out, it was a little disappointing. So I gave it like a 7.5 out of 10. And then after that, I watched An American Haunting, again, of course, from '05. This is one that I kind of forgot was from '05, and I remember when this one came out. I did not see it at the time it came out, but I just remember seeing the trailer all the time and like it seeming like this big deal type of film. But it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just a basic generic haunting movie, but it's actually set in the 1800s and apparently, allegedly, based on true events. At least that's what the movie says. I don't know if that's actually real or not. I think it might be. I feel like that's what it was like marketed as back in the day. So, but it's about like, you know, this family that was haunted back in like the 1820s or something like that. And I actually dug it. I like the period piece aspects of it. The ghostly effects, again, weren't that great. I think that's kind of a common theme with '05 moves is they try too hard with like CG and stuff like that. So wasn't that great, but there was a few creepy moments that I dug. And, you know, Sissy Spacek is actually in this film, which watching her in this, I think like it would have been cool if like they had her play the mother in the Carrie remake. I feel like she would have fit the role really well with the way she looks now and her acting. That's kind of what kind of went through my head. But she was good, and it's interesting. She's also in The Ring 2 from this year. But yeah, I dug the movie. I know some people think it's a little boring and generic, but I enjoyed it. It was surprising to me. But I gave it a 7 out of 10. And then after that, I just watched this today, and that is The Dark Hours. This was a movie I just kind of found on YouTube. Just typed in 2005 horror movies on there to see if there was anything unique that I hadn't seen. And this movie popped up. It's like I believe it's a Canadian horror psychological thriller film. And it's definitely more thriller, psychological thriller rather, about this girl who is a psychiatrist, but she's dealing with an inoperable brain tumor that has started to grow, and so she goes to this, you know, sort of getaway with her. It's like a cabin they have. She goes with her husband and her younger sister. And while she's there, this mental patient who was a, you know, previous patient of hers shows up and starts terrorizing her. And at the end, there is kind of like a twist thing. It was okay, I thought. Like I said, it's definitely more thriller than anything, and I feel like it's a little bit weak in the story. It's very basic. It's like nothing you really haven't seen before, but it was okay. I gave that like a 6.5 out of 10. So that is all of my moves.
All right, cool. All right, so
am I boring you, buddy?
No, sorry, it's just 2 a.m.
I see.
So yeah, I guess the featured review for this week, we did watch it last week, or 2 weeks ago, I think at this point.
Yeah.
Or was it last week?
I think it was 2 weeks.
Yeah,
ago.
okay. So,
Weekend.
it is the Unholy, which came out around Easter, I assume, right?
Yeah, I think we went and saw it, it was Good Friday when we went and saw this, so that was Easter weekend.
Right. So, The Unholy is an American supernatural horror film. Just a side note, we also went and seen Ben Wheatley's new movie, which we will review on the next podcast. But
yes.
Yeah, so The Unholy is an American supernatural horror film directed by Evan Spilatopoulos.
Right.
Which
Hip-Hop Anonymous.
has directed some stuff that I've know of. He has a weird filmography. Huh. He's like directed stuff for like Disney and things. Like
That's weird.
Lion King 1.5.
Oh. That's random.
Or wait, is he a writer on there? I don't know. The freaking Wikipedia in their damn way they lay stuff out. Okay, so he was a writer primarily. Like, he wrote a lot of stuff. This is actually his directorial debut. So he was a writer on a lot of Disney stuff. Jungle Book 2, Tarzan 2, Cinderella 3. Like, a lot of the sequels, actually, which is funny.
Isn't that weird? It's like he probably just wanted to be a horror director. He was like, I'm going to break out and finally do my masterpiece.
Yeah, like, he wrote the Beauty and the Beast reboot, the live-action one.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, a bunch of Disney stuff. Kind of weird. But,
yeah.
Anyway, this film basically follows a journalist who is kind of like a little bit of a shady journalist, but he happens upon this little area where he believes there is a woman there that can communicate with the Virgin Mary, and that they're performing miracles, like, you know, healing the sick and stuff like that. And it becomes this big fiasco where he's kind of doing the story, and the Vatican comes down to declare if it's truly miracles or if it's some kind of fake stuff. But the Virgin Mary that this woman is talking to might not be a true Holy Spirit and more of an unholy spirit. Right?
Right. Yes.
So, what did you think?
I enjoyed the concept of it. I thought it was creepy and like unsettling. I find I enjoy this religious sort of horror where people kind of can fall for something really easily because in front of them it seems like a good thing is happening, but then it might not be what it seems. I really dig that. So I did enjoy that. And I will say, when we watched this, it was the third film we saw after Tom and Jerry and Godzilla vs. Kong. So I feel like I was kind of tired by the end, and this is kind of not the best movie to watch at the end of a movie-a-thon, but because it is kind of slow and stuff like that. It's kind of bleak in its storytelling, but like I said, I enjoyed the story. I think the biggest issue with the film, though, is the scares are pretty bad. You have like this sort of ghostly Mary character thing, and it's just not that scary at all. There was like maybe one jump scare that got me, but other than that, I felt like it was trying a little bit too hard and kind of took away from the like, seriousness of the story, honestly. Like, I feel like it would have been better without the scares, almost. So that was kind of the biggest, like, bummer of the film for me, was the scares and, like, the look of Mary and stuff like that. But like I said, I think the story had a lot of potential, and if done a little bit better, it would have been a great, great movie as opposed to just an okay film.
Yeah, I think I like this one more than a lot of the people who've seen it. I do agree with you that the scares were extremely weak, and the look of Mary was, like, it wasn't bad on the surface, but it needed reworked a little bit. You know what I mean? It wasn't super effective, and I could see something like that working, just not that.
Yeah, me too.
In terms of actors in this one, the only person I recognized was William Sadler as Father Hagen, who I love. I'm a huge William Sadler fan. I think he's great in horror too. So he's in this. I think, like, what I liked about it most, what I thought was super neat, was just the story itself. I actually really like the story. There is, like, this little backstory with this, like, it's almost like a voodoo doll. Or it's some kind of, like, spell binding doll where it's like it kind of like holds a spirit or something like that. You know what I mean? Is that what happened?
I think so. Yes.
I can't really. My memory's a little busted on this one, but
yeah,
and it's like this has happened before, essentially, and it's there's like a doll, and this all happens right at the beginning of the movie, like literally the opening. So it has sort of this like spell-binding doll that, like, kind of holds the spirit back. This was actually a Ghost House production. Sam Raimi produced this, which is pretty interesting. The last Ghost House film I think I saw was Grudge, the new Grudge, which was not good. But the thing about, like, the story that I thought was so cool was it was taking this religious figure of the Virgin Mary, and it was essentially like an evil version of that. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that it was really interesting to sort of take these miracles, which of course is, like, amazing, right? Like healing the blind, and like the lead was deaf for forever, or for a long time, and now she can hear all of a sudden, and she's sort of a conduit for this Virgin Mary. And it's interesting to see sort of everybody. It's twisted to see people be healed with these miracles, but it's a dark force behind it, so you know it's going to end bad. Something about that was just really intriguing to me, and I was actually a little surprised that I hadn't seen that happen before. Or, you know, it might have happened before, but I hadn't seen it happen before. So I thought that was really interesting, and I was really into the movie based on that. It's just, unfortunately, like, when the scares were happening, they were really disappointing and non-effective, and I almost was, like, trying to forgive them. Like, just after one would end, I would just, like, be like, fuck that, and, like, move on, because I was, like, really into, like, what was going on. And I thought that there was obviously a little bit of jabs at the church and stuff like that, because there's a point where the journalist is starting to investigate and figure out that, okay, this might not be the Virgin Mary or, like, a Holy Spirit, it might be an unholy spirit, and the church kind of, like, doesn't want to, you know, accept that, or they're trying to, like, turn a blind eye to it because they can't, you know, they can't stop now, you know, with all this traction and stuff, because they're essentially making it, they're going to make this place like an official holy place, or I forget, like, you know how there's, like, the big like, religious, like, places with, like, the cross, like, you know, destinations for, like, religion, like, big important places. This is gonna kind of be one
churches,
of them.
buddy.
No, not just like a church, like,
I know, buddy, I'm joking.
Do you know what I'm talking about, though?
Yeah.
They mention it in the movie. I just can't remember what they were, or where they were, what they were called. Like I think they're gonna put a big cross there or something, or a big statue of Virgin Mary. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see this like phenomena take place where all these people are flocking there to be healed, and I felt like, really, I really cared for the lead girl, the girl who was hearing impaired at one point,
Hmm.
and you kind of feel bad that she's like essentially dealing with a false like prophet type thing. Not really a prophet, but something that's unholy. And
Hmm.
I didn't really put two and two together that this was released on a religious, like on or near a religious holiday. But it actually kind of made it even more interesting, or like it was like perfect timing. I didn't
Yeah.
really think about that until after I watched it. But yeah, I like horror. Like I didn't think I did for the longest time, but I really like religious horror. I think it's
Hmm.
very interesting, and it's a good combination. Like they go hand in hand together to me. I think that they work really well and they play off of each other very well. Obviously, the most known, the best one is probably The Exorcist, that really has a lot of religion in it. But this one is kind of a little bit different. Well, I guess not, because like the Exorcist does have a lot to do with faith. But I think that like it's a really cool, really cool concept to tie those two things together, and it's been done forever in horror. And I thought the story was really well done in this film. I just thought that the everything else was like, in terms of like the scares and like the way the Virgin Mary looked, was just really under par.
Yes. Yeah, I have come to like religious horror too. Like I really enjoyed Saint Maud. I think that was,
Oh
another
yeah, that
good
was
example.
another good one from this year.
Yeah, of it's like unique. Like The Exorcist is one thing, but like when I say I like religious horror, I don't mean very generic exorcism movies or anything like that.
Hmm.
Just like the ones where people think they're believing in something and they're doing stuff in the name of God, but it's like actually, it could be something sinister or they're just in it for the wrong reasons. I think it's like a scary concept because I feel like it could actually happen. So yes, I enjoyed this film.
Do you think it could
And
actually happen? You mean that people can believe so deeply in something that they...
like
Yeah,
it turns bad. Yes.
yeah, it's scary. I like that. But
It's
also, like, this year I watched Exorcism of Emily Rose, and I really like that too.
yeah,
Um, so
that's a good
for
one.
2005, so yeah, I've been kind of enjoying the religious horrors. In fact, after I watched Exorcism of Emily Rose, I went and watched Dominion, the prequel to The Exorcist, simply because I like really enjoyed Exorcism of Emily Rose, but unfortunately, Dominion is not
Yeah,
on
it's
the
not
same
terrible.
level. But yeah, you have anything else on this one?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
All right, well, I guess that. Do you have letterbox reviews?
Yes. I will read this one. It is 3.5 stars by Bert. Bert. Bert likes the movies Black Beauty, I'm Your Woman, and those are the movies he likes. Anyway, they said, super fun and blasphemous religious horror flick, full of jump scares, hokey CGI, and loud music cues. Pretty much your stock standard horror flick that we see so often come out of the American studios. It's a lot of fun though, and waste no time in getting into things. I really appreciate that. It didn't drag its heels ever. The pace was fantastic. Nice cinematography and locales too. And the lead actress had the most beautiful hair. That's kind of weird. The only thing I would say I didn't like about it is that the Jeffrey Dean Morgan character should have been played by a woman. I don't like him, and I much prefer women lead. Okay, this got weird. Leading horror movies. Sorry. Also, they missed a good opportunity to use Unholy by Miley Cyrus over the
Oh
end
my
credits.
god.
That's a great bop that would fit in with the film nicely. Overall, I dig it. Easy
This
and
movie can't
entertaining
afford Miley
horror fare.
Cyrus music. Come on.
Yeah, I didn't realize that review took a turn for complete stupidity. My bad. Okay, then this dude, Ryan Danielle, gave it 1.5 star, and they have The Notebook and Thunder Force as their movies. Okay, weird as well. Let's see though. The first 15 minutes of this movie are really great, and setup is very promising. Unfortunately, the movie pretty much stops at that point and remains motionless for about an hour until the climax of the movie. I think there is potential in some places, but it just feels like it's going in circles without any real direction, and the horror falls flat for a good portion of the movie because of it. I will say the cinematography was solid, and I gotta hand it to Jeffrey Dean Morgan as well. He definitely made the most with what he had. For those who don't know, that was the main character guy. That is me telling you all that.
Alright, I guess, should we get into our ratings?
I suppose, buddy, I suppose.
Alright, so I will give this film a 6.5 out of 10. I think I was at a 7 when I first seen it, but I came down a little bit.
Yes, I forget what I gave it, but I think I'm about right there with you, 6.5 to 7. I would probably give it a 6.5 as well. On this one, I don't really see myself going back to it, but it did have a cool story.
Alright, so with that said, I guess that is it for our review this week. We'll see you guys next week. Hopefully we're kind of have a weird recording date. We're going to try to do it in between the 2-day drive-in extravaganza that we're going to, and then the show after. So next week will be the Into the, what is it? Into the Earth?
It's called In the Earth.
Yeah, In the Earth by Ben Wheatley. And then the week after that, we'll do our recap of the April Ghouls Drive-In Extravaganza. So,
yes.
With that said, I guess we'll see you guys next time.
Yes. Goodbye.